So I've made a couple changes to magic machines. I know, I just can't stop working on it. It's everything, every video, everything. I added sounds. They have their own unique sounds, each individual one. There are sounds for failures. There are sounds for not failing. There are sounds for using the energy tank and energy conduits. Doesn't that sound beautiful? Also, Magic Machines now uses translate strings, which is a change I'm going to be making going forward with a lot of my data packs. This is just so it's easier for me to change item names in the future, and also so that people can create translations of my data pack if they want. So big thank you to the commenter who suggested that. Enough about Magic Machines though. Let's talk about something else. If you use the ore infuser and alchemy reactor in previous versions of Chopping Block, then you know how much of a pain it can be to get the block that you actually want. This has been changed so that you're more likely to get ores, but you still get some of those extra blocks. That means you want to create a large setup instead of just using one at a time. Also, what do you think of this little mine that I made? I think it's pretty neat. Woo! Cheese composting is also a lot quieter. It used to make a lot of sound, now it only makes a little sound. Also, let's check out this house that I built over here. Doesn't it look nice? I did this little trick where I put black banners in item frames in front of the windows to make them look blacked out. And those item frames are just being hung on fence posts. But aside from a pretty nice use of a whole new world of color, check out these vertical slabs. I finally ported them over to the new update, and you can actually download that new version right now on my planet Minecraft. So if you want to add vertical slabs to your survival world, or you want to update them because you had them in a previous version of Minecraft, then you can follow the link in the description and download the update to the data pack now. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Bex, this must mean that you can get rid of drop queues and add the recipes into the stone cutter or crafting table. No, I can't, because the vertical slabs rely on entity data. And currently, in loot tables and recipes, the only entity data that you can effectively set is the ID of the entity, which means I simply would not be able to make these vertical slabs craftable. So, alas, I have to keep the drop queue. But good news, you don't see an ugly item frame name flash when you place the blocks now. So, I've spent a lot of time, about 2 seasons actually, fleshing out the early and mid game of Chopping Block. And now, I think it's time I get started on the end game, which means we need to go to the Nether. Now I know the Nether doesn't seem particularly late game at the moment, but allow me to explain myself. Endermen are going to spawn much more commonly in the Nether. God, just look how pretty this place is. And because I don't know anything about terrain gen data packs that would let me actually change what mobs spawn in a certain biome, what I am instead going to do is use command. Now, people who are familiar with the main source of inspiration for my channel will probably have already seen this method be used, except normally it wasn't used for increasing spawns of a certain kind of mob. It was for spawning custom mobs. But I think the mechanic fits in perfectly here, and I'm quite excited to use it. So I just coded that in complete silence. I was recording while I did it. So let me run through the code here for this. We are executing in the Nether as every wither skeleton that has not been found by this tag. So basically every wither skeleton in the Nether that has just been spawned will run this Enderman spawn function. And if we go look in that function, we add one to this mob count scoreboard that counts up how many wither skeletons spawn, and then the wither skeletons get the spawn found tag. And then it will check the score, and if at least 40 wither skeletons have spawned just in total, then it will summon an Enderman, spread it around the world in a random location, and then reset the counter So about every 40 wither skeletons, a new Enderman will spawn. So let's see if this works. Let's turn this on, and wow, it looks like our spawn cap is already used up. I think wither skeletons might not be the way to go. I kind of expected a lot more of them, so I think these zombified piglin might be the way to go. Okay, so after changing what mob is being counted from wither skeletons to zombified piglins, as well as lowering the amount of mobs that need to be counted from 40 to 20, I'd say Endermen are a pretty decent rarity in the Nether now. Now, we don't want them to be too common, but we also don't want them to be exceedingly rare like they were before. Previously, Endermen would only spawn in warped forests, and they're supposed to be planeswalkers. So I don't see why they only spawn in one biome in one specific dimension. So that begs the excellent question of why we need Endermen in Chopping Block in the first place. And that's because Endermen, through expanding the End, are our gate into the End. It would be so cool if this Enderman could just pose in a way that looks cool. And if these guys could stop getting in my way. In the Expanding the End Datapack, Endermen can trade various blocks and resources in exchange for nephrite stone. One of these resources is end portals. And that's meant to be how you access the End in Chopping Block. Since strongholds do exist, but they can be thousands of blocks away, and it can be pretty unreasonable to expect a player to bridge that far in a void world. And this is a change that I'm making to Nether tweaks and not expanding the End, because this change does primarily take place, in the Nether. It's a bit precarious, but fishing from this location might actually be quite nice and relaxing. I got a puffer fish. Oh, you want me to show you what's going on in the End? Okay. So once you've thrown enough nephrite at a haunting of Endermen to get yourself a decent amount of end portal frames, you can go to the End, and you'll find yourself quite a sight. Oh, that is way more intimidating with the fog. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the End fight. First, you'll have to pillar up to one of these pillars, and then the entire fight takes place on these little bridges. And the architecture is incredibly hostile. Sometimes travel between two pillars is downright impossible without using blocks or ender pearls. Not to mention the dragon can knock you off at any time, and the fact that you're way more likely to accidentally look at an Enderman with all of them being on the same exact bridges as you. This little bridge got broken, I think that's cool. These bridges haven't changed much since the previous iteration that you saw in this series, so I'm not gonna go over them entirely. Now, unfortunately, I'm unable to figure out how to actually respawn the dragon for more than one fight, but I do have something that I want to show you. Aside from simply access to the End, the dragon fight now has a proper reward. And no, I don't just mean access to even more void space. In fact, what are those? Out in the distance. If you bridge out to them, you'll start to see an End Iceberg and sometimes an End ship. Now, End Icebergs are an abundant source of, you guessed it, ice, but they also contain blocks such as End stone, and if you're lucky, an iceberg might have a big patch of end turf hiding in it somewhere. Now, End Icebergs are also nice because they sometimes spawn End City ships. And this is where you can find shulkers, it's where you can find Elytra, and you can find even more nephrite, as the obsidian in End ships has been replaced with the nephrite. The loot is still the same, so you can get your armor trims. It's just a little more challenging and endgame to get the Elytra. I should also remember to mention that Ascended Sand Sifters can sift end turf, and you can get some pretty high tier loot from it. This just isn't some of it. I also want to give a huge shout out to the member of my Discord server who helped create the End Icebergs Datapack. Their name is Twaj. If you're in the Discord server, make sure to give them a quick thanks for adding this to Chopping Block. Without them, I wouldn't be able to implement End Icebergs at all because I don't have the time nor the mental fortitude to learn how to add structures into Minecraft, especially with my already modified world gen. So a big thank you to Twaj for helping with that and opening up the gate to late game Chopping Block. Well guys, I had a lot of fun making this video, and I made it a lot faster than I anticipated, but that's good because that means that the next episode will be actually adding new features to the game, creating more items for the big update, as well as making use of the new 1.21 features that have been added. But that's all I have time for today, so if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new and want to see more of these devlogs in the future, and comment any suggestions you have for the data pack in the comments below. I'll make sure to read them.